A very good morning from the KTN News Center this Sunday morning. Many thanks for joining us on the broadcast. It is the 21st day of January 2018, the third Sunday of the month, first month of this year. Welcome to Sunday edition. This is Kenya's premier Sunday morning political show. We will be here for the next 2 hours or so to analyze for you and dissect what's happening politically in the country. My guests are here with me. Let me introduce them right away. I have with me Mutinda Kavemba, political strategist, political analyst Hesbon Owila, Mark Bichachi as well, political risk analyst Dismas Mokua. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's start with what's happening in the papers this morning, political pages. We start with the Sunday Nation. And the splash on the Sunday Nation is radicals versus moderates fight for NASA's future. We'll be talking about this in much more detail over this. But gentlemen, we did have the People's Assembly, or NASA, the People's Assembly, go to Machakos, where they said that time for dialogue was over. Today they will be going to Mombasa, I understand. Dismas, where would you rate this NASA, People's Assembly, and what's happening vis-a-vis that much anticipated swearing in on the 30th?
Well, when you listen to what the NASA principals are saying, you wouldn't say that there's a hardline position or there's a moderate position. I think there are two schools of thought in that school. There is a particular group which wants President Kenyatta to come to the table to come and negotiate. And for them, what they're looking is at electoral justice. They want to sanitize the electoral process so that in future, whoever is declared a winner by IBC is actually the winner, so that you avoid any illegalities and irregularities. And then there's another school which says, and they don't consider President Kenyatta as the head of state. So they're saying they need to have a people's president negotiating with the Jubilee president. But at the end of the day, when you look at it critically and what is going to be for the benefit of the nation Kenya, is to crystallize the ideas that NASA has been talking about. Number one, IBC stands accused of running elections which were not considered to be free, fair, and credible by a good part of the nation. The Supreme Court at some stage said that the elections were marred by illegalities and irregularities, and that has been confirmed the last few days on petitions. Like, for instance, for the Wajir case, one fails to understand how come the IBC was not able to ensure that all the candidates had the requisite qualifications as expected. So, in my view, what people should be asking is they should be looking at NASA and asking, does NASA have serious questions of concern? And the answer is yes. The NASA issues are formed conversations at the UN Security Council. The European Union has been discussing those issues. So you cannot have the entire world engaging in a conversation, and then for us in Kenya, we ignore that all is not well. So maybe the President Kenyatta needs to, because he's the head of state, he needs to have the courage to call NASA and say, what are the issues you want to discuss? Let's negotiate. And if you look at wherever you've got a head of state going for a negotiation, it's not always the case that you are going to lose. At some stage, President Kibaki was under pressure to negotiate with Raila Odinga.
Right.
He accepted. And at the end of it all, Raila got a road deal because President Kibaki did not lose anything.
All right. We'll get into it in more detail in a short while. Mark, do you think NASA is going about it the right way?
You know, the question I keep asking myself is why we mix terms, we mix truths, and we mix timelines to confuse the whole issue. First and foremost, our Supreme Court said that the elections of October 26th were free, fair, and credible, and President Kenyatta was duly elected. The same Supreme Court says that the elections of August 8th were null and void and were marred with the illegalities and irregularities. These are two realities that we cannot mix, okay? Right. The first reality meaning that the first election had issues and the second one did not. So which election are we going to discuss? That's the first issue. The second issue is if you look at the European debate on our election, you will notice some very key things that are indeed true of our electoral system. The first being the participation of women within our electoral cycle. Is this a conversation that is already happening? It is, because every day the president is expected to name a cabinet that meets the two-thirds gender rule. We have a court ruling that mandates that parliament and indeed Senate should meet the two-thirds gender rule. These are things that we're already dealing with as a country. But the third thing, and this is what is critical for me, is NASA outside of options within the law to exercise their right to speak and their right to differ with what the judgment was concerning the October 26th election? The truth is no. NASA has access to Parliament. It has access to Senate. It has access to county assemblies, which they've decided to use to create people's assemblies. They have access again to media. They have got access to picketing. So the question is, why is it necessary to go the route of a swearing in? And the question then becomes, what is the success rate of swearing-ins across the world? Whenever you have sworn in a president illegitimately, it has always gone nowhere. So why is NASA picking a path that has no legal basis, has no political implication at all, when they have a vast array of legal options to pursue? And one might be tempted to think that NASA wants to hold the country at ransom.
Hesbon?
Well, I think they don't need to go through the legal way, because this is not a legal issue. This is a political issue. And I think the question you asked was, are they justified to continue their county assemblies? They have a lot of impetus to do that, and I think they need to capitalize on that and continue with the drive to gain momentum. Towards the end of the year, you realize that they lost momentum. But I think in the turn of the year, a number of things have happened. One, we've had the EU report in Brussels. We've had a number of EU members of parliament discuss this, and of course they are pointing fingers to what NASA has been talking about, elections. So it is just prudent that as a political outfit that is in the quest for getting justice for the electorate and the country at large, rides on this. And the only way they can do this is to build momentum through the county assemblies, and I think they are proving a lot more successful for NASA than people expected. So we saw what they did in Machakos. We are yet to see what they're going to do in Mombasa. And then they'll move to the southern Nyanza region, to my county of Migori. And I think that is the way to go. No one disputes the fact that we have a sitting president who won in an election that many people have said was free, fair. Whether it was transparent, verifiable, we can't tell. But the fact that the legality of that is already a foregone conclusion does not wish away the political issues that we have. And I think when you look at electoral justice, I think we need to divorce the issue of who won or who lost the election when you talk about electoral justice. Because electoral justice is the basis upon which the will of the people will count for something. It is the basis upon which the government in power and the political party in opposition will work hard for the people, because the basis upon which they'll either retain power or get to power is on working for the people.
All right. Mutina, do you think NASA have gotten back that momentum that Hesbon says they lost towards the end of last year?
Not exactly, but it is what they are trying to regain, because it is true that the momentum had gotten lost, and actually their supporters were really frustrated, and they were making it known that this issue of postponing or aborting the planned swearing in had actually frustrated them very much, and that is what led to the loss of momentum. I believe they are now trying again to use the same issue for political mobilization, so that probably they can get that momentum again. But the question is whether it is really electoral justice they are seeking, or there is something else to it. Because why am I saying this? Because in the last electoral cycle, if you remember, there was a push for the disbandment of IEBC, the former IEBC, and it actually was disbanded. And there was even a bipartisan approach by both houses, that is the National Assembly and the Senate, that passed some laws towards having a better electoral system. And we did not have to swear anybody as president for that to happen. So if it is just about electoral justice, then there are very many other ways of doing it legitimately and within our constitutional framework. So then you are left wondering, what is the essence of pushing for the swearing in? Because if we've used other legal means and they worked for us to get a better electoral process, why the adamancy in pushing for swearing in of an alternative president, which is not supported by law?
All right.
That is the question.
We'll be getting into that in much more detail. We shall be reviewing what happened in Machakos on Friday as the National Super Alliance held the People's Assembly in that part of the country. They are said to be going to the coastal city of Mombasa today. We shall be talking about that in more detail later on. And of course, in our brand new session, Kitili's Crystal Ball, we shall be trying to predict what will be happening and trying to analyze this issue of moderates versus hardline positions inside NASA. In page 2 of the Sunday Standard, the Teacher Service Commission has removed unionist or teachers union officials who have joined politics. TSC have deregistered the Kenyan National Union of Teachers Secretary General Wilson Sosion, who is an ODM-nominated member of Parliament, as well as KUPPET Chairman Omboko Milemba, who is a Emuhaya Member of Parliament, among others. Mutinda, what's your take on this?
Now, I think this is going to be a legal issue going forward, because you see there is the issue of being a registered teacher, yes, and there is the issue of being a TSC employee. And, you know, if you're a TSC employee, then you are a state officer. You're working for the state. And there is the issue of whether you can have 2 state jobs. And, you know, the ones who went to parliament now are also state officers, mm-hmm, by virtue of them being in parliament. And I'm looking forward to the legal interpretation as to whether there is something wrong in the light of the provisions, the constitutional provisions that says that you should not hold 2 state jobs, or rather you should not get 2 salaries from government.
Right.
I think I want to look at it from that light, and I believe they'll go to court, and I'm really eager to see what the court is going to say about that particular matter.
Hesbon, what do you think is the argument here? Is it the old argument that if you're a public servant and you want to join politics, you need to resign first? What do you think?
Well, I think if you're a public servant and you join politics, you need to resign. And the law is very clear on that. What is not clear is whether these people are public servants. Because what we have had in the past is a situation where most trade unionists have also served as members of parliament. Before Atwoli became the Secretary General of KOTU, I think the Secretary General was Honorable Shamala. He was a member of parliament and he served KOTU. So when you're serving TSC, for instance, you're not paid by the government coffers. You're paid by the contribution that teachers make. And I would imagine that if teachers have employed you, they've employed you because you're representing their interests. And that is what teachers have done to Sosion and Honorable Milemba. Now, for Sosion's case, I think it's very clear in our law that political parties will nominate people who will represent different interests. Mm-hmm. And I think Sosion is doing that. All right. So for his case, this is just political, that he's leading you know, a union that draws members from across the country, and he happens to be in ODM. So there are a number of challenges, because now ODM is not in government. And to what extent is it going to represent the interests of the teachers and not the interests of ODM? And I think that is the issue here. For Emuhaya, member of parliament, I mean, the most honorable thing to do for him, given the current political dispensation, is to concentrate on representing the people of Emuhaya. I went to school next to Emuhaya, Maseno University, and I think there's a lot to be done in that region, and I'm not so sure whether we look at it within the law or not. If I was the one, I would concentrate on the people who gave me the mandate that I sought and leave KUPPET for somebody else.
All right, just an update on this. Those guys have got a reprieve from after Justice Nelson Abuoda temporarily suspended implementation of the notice. Mark, what's your take on this?
I'll pick up from where Hesbon has left it, and in terms of mandate. Does Sosion work under the mandate of the TSC or under the mandate of the teachers? This is a key question. And similarly, does the member for Emuhaya have 2 mandates, a mandate from the teachers and a mandate from the people of Emuhaya? This is the key question. Because for as long as they're not recognized as state officers, but are rather trade unionists, then they are insulated from the law that says that public officers should not be in 2 positions at the same time. But the question now becomes, for us as a country, are we moving in a place where we are a bit petty in terms of trying to stifle people's powers, Or B, are we moving in a way where we want to respect the rule of law above all else? If we are going the part of A, then the only people who have a mandate to remove Sosion and indeed the member from Emuhaya from their organizations is the teachers themselves. It should be something that should be left to them, because whether they have two jobs and they're able to fulfill both of them is a question of what the employer feels they're able to do, because these are not jobs that are in competition. Parliament is not in competition with Kupet or NAT, and therefore there is no conflict of interest.
All right.
So the reality of the matter is as a nation, we need to separate matters law and matters political witch hunting from how we do our things.
All right. Dismas, what do you think? Do you think somebody like Sosion has been on the forefront in altercations with the Ministry of Education over a lot of things, labor relations, the strike notices and all that? The latest bone of contention, the order by Matiang'i to paint all school buses. Do you think he's paying the price for this, or do you think the TSC has a point?
Well, no, there are three ways to look at it. If you go through our constitution, Article 90, 97, and 98, you go through them in detail. Article 97 says that there shall be 12 members nominated to the National Assembly to represent special interests, youth, disabled persons, etc. There is no way you can represent special interests if you are not a member of that group. So for Mr. Sosion, he is nominated by ODM to represent the special interests of teachers in the National Assembly. So to that extent, he is actually supposed to be in the National Assembly. He did not go out seeking for elections. He did not go out seeking for votes. He's representing special interests. The moment he stops being a teacher, the moment he stops being the leader for NAT, then he will no longer be able to represent those interests. Because people will ask him, you are representing our interests in the National Assembly. Who has given you these mandates? And in my view, both Jubilee and NASA should be encouraging subject matter experts, people with the special skills, representing special interests, to go to the National Assembly for nomination purposes. But for the Kupet chairman, he should have resigned his position ages, because now he's having an elective position. So for the Moya MP, you don't need to be worried about him. He should have resigned ages. But for Sosion, you read mischief. And when you say that he's found himself on the wrong side of the law, that is supposed to be his responsibility. As a trade unionist, you represent your teachers. And the person is supposed to be engaging in battles every day is the Teacher Service Commission. So for him, he's merely doing his work. And I think it's unacceptable for the government to penalize Sosion for merely doing his work. And we've got a history that if you want Parliament to be rich in conversations, you must have those special interests in truckloads. In fact, instead of even having the 47 women rep, we should have increased the number of people who are nominated, so that you get subject matter experts who are unable to participate in the electoral process going to the National Assembly.
All right.
I would want to make some clarification here, because I think we are mixing issues. You see, there's the issue of TSC. That is the Teacher Service Commission. You being an employee of TSC. There's the issue of you being an elected member of NAT and Kupet, which is quite different. If you read what the paper is saying, it is that they've been removed from the TSC role. It is not that they've been removed from their positions as Kupet or NAT officials. So then the question is, because you are first an employee. Even before Milemba and Sosion were elected, they were first teachers.
Yes.
And that is what the government is now trying to get them off that so that they now deny them that status of being employed teachers. That is what and TSC is a government body. So we are not talking about their position as NAT, as trade unionists. That actually, you're very right when you argue that it depends on the membership. That is very, 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 very true. So the question then is, if you are no longer an employee of
what is the
TSC,
effect of that?
Exactly. What is the effect of that on your status as? And I don't know, but one thing I know is that there is a former town clerk who's an official of the Kenya Local Government Workers Union. Nowadays, I think it's called something. He's a former Marsabit, is someone robber. He was a former town clerk of Nairobi.
Ali Roba.
No, not Ali Roba. I don't know. I'm forgetting his name, but one of the names was Roba. I think he's still an official. Even when he became an MP, and he ceased to be an employee of CTOL or local government, he still remained the Secretary General of the Kenya Local Government Workers Union. So the question is, once you cease to be an employee of TSC, formally like the government is trying to do now, does it mean then, and that will depend on the KUPPET and NAT rules, that you can no longer also be a representative of the teachers?
But allow me to clarify my point. If you're not a teacher, you have no business being a member of either NAT or KUPPET. So technically speaking, you will not have the capacity to represent anybody in the National Assembly. So if you deregister Sosion and you tell him you're no longer a teacher, then his colleagues at the Kenya National Union of Teachers will be very happy to kick him out of office.
But according to the papers, Sosion has said that he left the TSC in 2001 when he became an art official.
Yeah, and you see, when you become a trade unionist, TSC ceases to be your employer. There are so many registered teachers by TSC who don't work for TSC. They are doing other things.
All right, I want us to get a quick comment on a story here that is developing. That is concerning the largest referral hospital in Kenya, the Kenyatta National Hospital. There has been an online storm after allegations were made of security lapses and maternity, with the maternity wing, allegations of rape and sexual harassment. Members of Parliament trooped there yesterday. Very quickly, Dismas, what do you think the politicians or the political leaders should do to try and get to the bottom of this?
Well, you know, whenever there's a crisis in Kenya, politicians normally want to get some PR mileage. So they'll go to KNH, not really because they're concerned about the plight of Kenyatta National Hospital, but they're just going there for photo opportunities, and after that, they'll send out messages on a tweet, they go home, and their voters will be very happy. But in my view, what is supposed to happen is the parliamentary committee from the National Assembly responsible for healthcare is the one that is supposed to visit this issue into detail, because they've got the capacity and powers to summon the management of KNH and go down into the issue. But even before they do that, they need to get the services of subject matter experts, and they need to get hospital security consultants to audit the security system at KNH, so that people will be arguing from a point of knowledge. Because all the information you are getting right now, it seems that it's just coming from a certain pool and nobody can verify. So you'll need professionals to audit and give an independent view. But when you look at the CEO, it's a tragedy that she's still running that hospital. Because our first reaction was to say there was no rape. All these allegations that have been leveled against the hospital is somebody imagining somewhere. And then she claims that she's going to have an investigation. So now you're wondering, what kind of investigation are you going to have when you've already indicated that this did not take place? And I think it's important for Mailu then to ensure, appoint auditors to go through the hospital security system. And you know that will only be a standalone item. They need to go through everything else. They need to go through procurement, the human capital, everything, so that Kenyans are proud of KNH as a referral hospital.
All right, Mark, very quickly.
I have never seen an institution do so many wrong things in one instance. Number one, how in God's name are we talking as a nation about a woman who's being raped days or even hours after delivering a baby? That is how low our society has sunk. Secondly, how we in a society where someone who's equally a woman, who's had children, comes out and speaks about this issue in the most insensitive way, then how is the solution that women who've just given birth in a national institution have to walk around in groups as though this is some form of kismayu? This is the problem with our nation. That number one, our morality is wrong, our sensitivity towards the plight of others is wrong, and number three, our ability to address and fix issues is also wrong. Because what we would have expected the lady to come and do is begin, number one, is there a process by which these women are being treated, counseled, and being taken through the process of handling trauma? The second issue, is there an investigation to find out what is going on? Third issue, can you separate these men that have been harassing these women from being near the women? As in, they're very simple, practical things that should have been done already even before an investigation comes. And this is the problem that we have with a lot of government institutions. Horrible communication and horrible disaster management.
All right, Hezbon, very clearly.
I think Kenyatta National Hospital is well poised to be the premier medical institution in East and Central Africa. Because Kenya is a large economy, we can actually do this. And it is sad that most of the positions, senior management positions, are just positions that you have political foot soldiers jostling for, and we end up with people who are not even qualified. The government should come in big time through the Parliamentary Service Commission and do something really, really serious. Investigate and provide an environment where people would be happy to go and seek treatment.
All right.
Now, according to me, the beauty of this, it's an opportunity for us to look at our public health system in totality. Why am I saying this? You know, sometimes last year there was an issue of some kids in Busia County, I think, who were given some vaccination that really messed them up. Some of them ended up being disabled. Last week I saw some incidents again in Bomet. A kid, actually a twin, lost his life because of some vaccine. And this means that there has been a problem. You remember there was a doctor strike. You remember there were nurses strikes. But all those major events never attracted the attention of the country into discussing what really ails our public health system. The Kenyatta incident seems to be different. I was actually very impressed by seeing the bipartisan approach that was adopted by the MPs. If you noticed, there were both NASA and Jubilee. It's been long since we had such a thing happening in this country. So I think we should take it further. Other than just fixing Kenyatta, there should be a discussion about what really ails our public health system and what is it that needs to be done so that Kenyans can be sure that whenever they go seek health services from the public health institutions, then they are getting the right quality of service for their good health.
All right. We shall see what this, where this story takes us, what happens, the investigation that the Kenyatta National Hospital management seems to say will be happening, and of course the bipartisan leadership that did visit the Kenyatta National Hospital, what they will find out as well. Very unfortunate what has been happening. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition. When we are back, we will talk about the National Super Alliance, who are today said to be in Mombasa to take their People's Assembly there, to take the views of Kenyans in the coastal city of Mombasa, what they think about the swearing in that is set to happen on the 30th of this month. They were in Machakos on Friday. When we return, we'll review all that. Don't go too far.